Growing up, my relationship with my older brother Liam was anything but normal. From an early age, he made it his mission to torment me, and our parents rarely intervened. My mother, ever the peacekeeper, urged me to ignore his bullying, while my father simply dismissed it as brotherly rivalry. But it never felt like a rivalry. It felt like survival. One day, after years of enduring his physical and verbal abuse, I decided enough was enough. I stood my ground, making it clear I wouldn't tolerate it anymore. To my surprise, my father didn't scold me. Instead, he told Liam to knock it off. That moment changed everything. Realizing he no longer had the upper hand, Liam's bullying shifted from physical to verbal. He would hurl insults under his breath when no one was watching and refused to communicate with me directly. If he needed something, he'd relay the message through our mother, who insisted I be the bigger person. I often wondered if his hatred for me was just a phase or something deeper. By the time I left for college, escaping Liam's toxicity was a breath of fresh air. I earned a scholarship to my dream university and finally felt free. My father threw a small party in my honour, and even my mother seemed genuinely proud. Liam, however, remained distant, barely acknowledging my achievement. But at that point, I no longer cared. University was a fresh start. I made new friends, enjoyed my classes, and, for the first time, felt like I was in control of my life. It was during my second year that I met Ava at a mutual friend's party. She was charming, intelligent, and full of life. We clicked instantly. Coming from a conservative background, marriage before children was expected, so when Ava became pregnant in our final year, we decided to tie the knot. It was a simple, yet beautiful wedding, and I genuinely believed Ava was the love of my life. I had always envisioned a marriage built on trust and commitment. Despite temptations, I never strayed. Ava was everything I wanted. Or so I thought. Years into our marriage, I discovered that Eva had betrayed me. The first instance of infidelity was a brief affair with her married co-worker. I was devastated, but convinced myself it was a mistake. People mess up. I forgave her, believing our love could overcome anything. The second betrayal, however, shattered my resolve. It was an affair with an ex-boyfriend during a visit to her hometown. I should have left then, but I didn't. We had a child, and I wanted to provide him with a stable home. I convinced myself that forgiveness was the best path forward, and for a while things seemed to improve. But no matter how hard I tried, I could never fully trust Eva again. 4 years passed, and I was beginning to believe we had finally moved past our troubles. Then, 3 months ago, my world came crashing down again. Ava admitted she'd been in a long-term affair and, even worse, our son might not be mine. Her words hit me like a freight train. I demanded answers, but her cold, detached response made it clear. She had no real remorse. I pressed her for the truth, and after dodging my questions, she finally confessed. The man she had been sleeping with all these years was Liam. My blood ran cold. The betrayal was beyond anything I could have imagined. She detailed how it began when I first introduced her to my family. Liam, who had always treated me with contempt, was surprisingly warm and welcoming toward her. She saw it as an attempt to bridge the gap between us. I saw it as the ultimate deception. Ava explained that Liam had confided in her about his struggles with a recent breakup and, in a moment of weakness, their relationship crossed the line. What started as playful banter turned into secret meetings and eventually a full-blown affair. The weight of her confession was suffocating. I asked her if she still had feelings for him. She hesitated, then admitted that they had always stayed in touch. Even after our marriage, they continued sneaking around, lying to me about work trips and overtime hours. Half of her supposed business travels had been romantic getaways with my own brother. I asked why she had married me if she wanted Liam. Her answer? She didn't want to be the one to break things off. She saw me as the stable option, the dependable one. In her words, a mistake that went too far. I packed my bags that night. Ava begged me to stay, sobbing that if I truly loved her, I would fight for our marriage. But I wasn't interested in fighting for someone who had already chosen someone else. She then switched tactics, guilt-tripping me about our son. When I reminded her that he might not even be mine, she accused me of being cruel. The next day, I told my parents everything. My mother, ever the protector of Liam, refused to believe it at first. But I called Liam on speakerphone, tricking him into thinking we were alone. When he realised my parents were listening, he panicked, stammering out excuses. But it was too late. My father, who had always favoured Liam, was disgusted. For the first time, he stood by me. He cut Liam off financially, revoking his college funds and ceasing all financial support. My mother, though heartbroken, couldn't defend him anymore. In the following months, my father decided to rewrite his will, ensuring Liam would receive nothing but $1. When Liam found out, he tried calling me, suddenly desperate to fix things. He had dropped out of college, struggled to find work, and was drowning in debt. Meanwhile, Eva had started demanding child support. Liam begged me to help, claiming he was lost and that everyone had turned their backs on him. But I had no sympathy left. I reminded him that actions have consequences. He made his choice, and now he had to live with it. For the first time, Liam, the golden child, was completely alone. As for me, I'm thriving. I've moved into my own place, received a promotion, and have been focusing on rebuilding my life. I'm in therapy, taking things one step at a time. Liam and Eva deserve each other, and I deserve my peace. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. If you're ever betrayed, remember, sometimes walking away is the best revenge. Adjusting to life on my own was easier than I expected. Despite the pain of betrayal, I found comfort in my independence. I focused on work, hit the gym more often, and even picked up a new hobby, traveling solo. It was liberating to finally prioritize myself after years of emotional turmoil. 2 weeks ago, my father called with unexpected news. He had decided to amend his will, ensuring my brother Nathan wouldn't inherit anything significant. My father was a man of principle, and once he made up his mind, there was no changing it. Nathan, cut off from financial support, had attempted to reach out, even showing up at our parents' doorstep to beg for forgiveness. Surprisingly, even my mother, who had always excused his actions, refused to let him in. It was clear that she too had finally reached her limit. Despite my father's hard-earned fortune, nearly $2 million in assets and investments, Nathan would receive a mere symbolic sum of $1. The only condition was that if my father passed before my mother, she would have the right to remain in their home, despite the ownership transferring to me. I had no issue with this arrangement. After everything, I still wanted to ensure my mother's well-being. Somehow, Nathan found out about my father's decision. Whether my mother had a moment of weakness and told him, or he had other sources, I wasn't sure. But last night, I received a call from him for the first time in years. "Look, Leo," he began, his voice carrying an unfamiliar vulnerability. "I know I messed up. I lost everything. College, money, respect. Karen keeps asking for child support and I've got nothing to give. I'm drowning here, man. I need your help. Just talk to Dad. Get him to reconsider." I laughed, not out of amusement but sheer disbelief. "You need my help?" I scoffed. "Maybe you should have thought about that before betraying me. Before sleeping with my wife." "Karen's just as guilty," he argued. I know," I interrupted, my tone sharp. "That's why I left her. You should have done the same instead of destroying everything for a moment's pleasure." Nathan grew frustrated, his voice rising. I was stupid. I get it. But you can't just abandon me, Leo. We're still brothers. I let out a deep breath, shaking my head. No, Nathan, we're not. The last thing I heard before I hung up was him crying. It was the first time in years I'd ever seen him break. And for a brief moment, I wondered if I should feel sorry for him. But any sympathy I might have had was buried beneath the weight of what he had done. Now, I wonder, should I intervene and talk to my parents? Or is it best to let Nathan face the full consequences of his actions? Update 1. Many people have asked why I chose to cut ties with Henry, the child I once believed was mine. Some have even called me heartless. The truth is, it's not that simple. Henry isn't my stepson. He's the child of my ex-wife and my brother. Discovering that shattered me. The bond I thought we had was built on a lie, and every time I see him, I'm reminded of the worst betrayal of my life. It's not Henry's fault, but I can't keep that connection without keeping Karen in my life, and that's something I refuse to do. Maybe in the future I'll reconsider. But for now, I need to heal. Update 2. It turns out my suspicions were right. My mother was the one who told Nathan about the will. When I confronted her, my father was present, and she immediately broke down. She insisted that Nathan had suffered enough and deserved another chance. My father, however, was livid.